make is that TPI really highlighted that everyone's swing is going to be different. There's a million different ways to swing a golf club, but for each individual person, there is one way that is the most efficient. Hey there, welcome to episode 5 of the Golf Never Sleeps podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Robillard, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about something that doesn't matter if you are a high-level professional or if you are a recreational golfer, and it's based around the topic of you're only as good as the team around you. Now, this comes from, we hear a lot of tour players talk about, especially after wins when they get interviewed and they ask about who they like to thank and who was a part of the journey, all that kind of stuff. They always reference their team. And we know that that's a lot more than just mom and dad and their golf coach. They like to talk a lot about their trainer, their sports psychologist, and some different members of their team that really kind of help bring them full circle in their ability to perform at the highest level. And recently, I've made a shift in my coaching model where I've tried to assemble a team around me to be able to offer different services to my players. And I want to talk a little bit about that and how each one of those has kind of played a part. And also, although I've made it sound like it's something that only belongs to tour winners, I do believe that it's something that every single player can have, which is a couple key members, which we'll call their team, which can help them improve their performance. So I'd like to start with talking about how I even got to this point and kind of what really shed some light on it. And I have to give a ton of credit to TPI, to the Titleist Performance Institute, to Dr. Dave Phillips and Greg Rose, and the approach that they've taken around really educating the coaches that they educate, their golf professionals, their fitness professionals, and their medical professionals, and really educating them that they're not three individual entities. They spend a lot of time talking about, if done properly, all three of them have their jobs working together to help players improve. So I first took a TPI Level 1 certification back in the year 2016, and that was the first time I'd ever really even considered the body when it came to the golf swing. I was still a relatively young instructor, and it really blew my mind how much a person's individual golf swing is built around the way that their body can move. And I know that a lot of us will spend time looking at models and we want someone to swing like Nelly Korda or Justin Thomas as an example, but a lot of players' bodies don't move like theirs. They're a one of one. And being able, and I guess the point I'm trying to make is that TPI really highlighted that everyone's swing is going to be different. There's a million different ways to swing a golf club, but for each individual person, there is one way that is the most efficient. And I remember when I had left that, wanting to learn more even about my own body, and I started doing I started connecting with some fitness professionals and a chiropractor, getting understanding even how I move, and really starting to dive into, although I look relatively healthy, I have a ton of dysfunction in my body that can affect the way that I move the golf club. And as I spent more time around TPI and that network and other professionals at those type of events, there are medical professionals, there are sports psychologists, there are fitness professionals, there are nutritionists, and all of them play a huge part in a player's performance. So as I've made a switch in my coaching model to wanting to drive more of a holistic approach, I've needed to assemble some different team members in hopes of trying to build that culture where if someone comes to me and I know that it's not their golf swing that is their biggest problem, whether it be their body or their mindset or the things they put in their body, I have an expert in that field that I can send someone to help get the help that they need. And this is a big transition I felt for myself, and I think it's a big transition for a lot of coaches because a lot of coaches are afraid to send their players to other people because they're afraid that they might not come back. The thing that I've realized as I've gone along is, yes, I want to retain that client, But if more than anything, if I show that client that I want what is best for them, whether it involves me directly or not, that's building the reputation that I want to build. So the first person or the first team member that I wanted to go find was someone to take care of the body, on the fitness side, the medical side. And I'm very fortunate that there's a group of guys here in my local town. They're not far from me, about 20 minutes from where I live in our local area, at a facility called G Park, Canada. And there we have essentially 4 medical professionals. They are certified chiropractors, massage therapists, medical professionals. They have a very deep understanding of the body, and they also have an understanding of the golf swing and a little bit of an understanding of how the golf swing is supposed to work. But their expertise is the body, and I really like the fact that when I send someone to them, they're not going to try to change their golf swing. They're going to try to get their body to move better so that when that player comes back to meet the golf coach, I have a better chance to get that person in the position that they need to be in for their body to produce the best swing that they can for themselves. So with a lot of players now, I continue to encourage, and to be honest, I'm not far away from making it mandatory, where if you want to have a lesson with me or if you want to sign up for one of my programs, you have to start with an assessment with someone on we'll call it on my physical/fitness team. I need them to identify the dysfunction in your body, because sometimes we often have a lot of players that tell me, oh, I'm relatively healthy, I've never really hurt myself. And then you dive in a little bit deeper and they've broken both ankles and they've had a knee surgery and they've dislocated their shoulder. It's amazing. We're so quick to tell you how we feel right now, but we don't consider the fact that what we did 5 or 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago or longer to our body actually has a long-term effect. Hey, I've just got a quick favor to ask, and I'll get you back to the episode. If you're enjoying these episodes, I need you to do me a favor. Can you please like, subscribe, and give me a positive review? Whether you're listening podcast, YouTube, wherever you're listening, your support in form of a subscription or review really helps the podcast grow and also means a lot to me. So if you're enjoying this, make sure you let me know by subscribing or leaving a review, and I'll keep making more great content. Now back to the episode. That doesn't mean it can't be fixed, but it needs to be identified to know what kind of limitations we're talking about. I can't figure that out, or I can't figure that out. I'm just a golf coach. I like to send someone to the members of my fitness and medical team for them to do an assessment and to report back to me with, hey, these are the corrective exercises I've got this player going through. I just want you to keep an eye on the fact that this person has some limitations in their left shoulder, their right hip, and they've got low back pain as an example. Because with that information, now that I've had a body expert tell me what's going on with their body, I can work with that with a little bit of an idea in the back of my mind that because the way that their body is, their golf swing might look a certain way. And I guess I can wrap this back into, even if you're just a recreational player that has no golf coaching, you're unsure if you want a golf coach or different things like that, I cannot recommend enough. Go find a TPI certified fitness or medical professional. Get a level 1 screen done. Get an assessment on your body. Find out where your issues actually are and get some corrective exercises to help you move a little bit better. I'm by no means a doctor, but there's something that I've come to learn even with my own body, and it's where the pain is usually is not where the problem is. And something that I found out working through my own body, I always had this nagging area of my body, and I thought it was because I had tight hips. Well, I did have tight hips, but I had tight hips because I had tight ankles, and I had never considered the ankles. And a couple small things that an expert was able to get me back on track. I'm swinging the golf club faster than I ever have, and I'm healthier than I ever have, and I feel stronger than I ever have, because it was identified that my ankles were causing the dysfunction in my hips, which was slowing me down and causing me pain. That's my small example, but I know that this is possible for everybody. So the first members of my team is a fitness and medical professional, and I encourage all of you find somebody who's an expert in the body, get to know what your body actually does and why it does it. And I promise you that that'll make you enjoy the game of golf a little bit more, because you might be pain-free, or you might be a little bit more mobile, or you might be able to swing the golf club a little bit faster. So that's team member number one on my team, is the medical and fitness side. Number two, we often hear people talk about the mental game. Some people say golf is 90% mental. I know that that's a term that's thrown around a lot. I don't know if I totally believe that. But the mental game plays a very big part. And whether you are a recreational golfer or a competitive player, the ability to perform around our friends in competition, under pressure we put on ourselves, that's not an easily acquired skill. That's a trained skill. And I think a lot of us can recognize that that is something that very few of us are experts in. So again, instead of me saying, oh, you've just got to do this or you just got to do that, I'm not an expert in psychology. So what I've done is I've teamed up with a sports psychologist. And right now, all of my juniors have access to the sports psychologist. In their yearly program, there's included sessions where they get to work with this person. But this is someone that my adults have access to as well. And again, this is something where that revenue is not going directly to me. It is going to another professional. But I'm enriching that player's experience, and I'm giving them more tools in their toolbox by being the facilitator and helping connect these people. So someone now comes to me and they get a physical assessment, and someone now has access where I can recommend a sports psychologist that has worked with my players, and I've seen the work that he or she has done and believe that they are one of the best in their fields. And the thing that I like is also at times it gives the player to hear, or gives them a chance to hear a different voice, especially maybe when we're talking about juniors or even players through college, where they usually just hear, mom and dad, or they just hear their golf coach, or they just hear their coach at school. They just keep hearing those same voices. Sometimes a different voice can just be a reminder that everything that everyone else is saying is still what you have to focus on, but also just getting to get someone in front of a different set of eyes, in front of a different voice, I think can go a long way. And as I've gotten more and more feedback from my players that have spent time with this sports psychologist, the feedback is, there's some things, Coach, you've said that this person has said the exact same thing, but they also said something which I'd never heard before, and it really kind of sunk in for me. And they gave me one or two exercises to work on to really help calm myself under pressure or to prepare for a big event. And I really like that takeaway. And for me, when I hear that, that's the home run. Like that's what this is all about. And the more that I go into it, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, I'm not the expert, but I believe that I have an obligation that if I want my players to play at their highest level, I have to assemble the best team around me, and offer those services or offer those different avenues to those players, even though it's not going to directly affect my income, or it's not directly going to make me more money because they're going to go see other people in the short term. In the long term, it's going to build my reputation that I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help my players shoot lower scores. And I hope that this is something that more coaches will consider. And I hope that more and more coaches will continue to get outside their comfort zone and bring others in, because I believe the more people you have in your circle, the stronger your circle becomes. Others that I have is I have access to a nutritionist. And there's a ton of nutrition information available. I think that a lot of people feel like they are nutrition experts, and a lot of people think they know what they're putting in their body is good for them. But again, something simple where when I have a player that is constantly telling me that they're low energy, or that they don't sleep well, or that they crash on the back nine, that's ticking a little light off in my head where sure I could say, oh, well, you must be dehydrated. I have no clue. I'm not the expert. I have a nutritionist available that I can send someone to and connect with to say, all right, I need you to go see Dr. Tom as an example, and I can connect them and say, Dr. Tom, here's what I'm hearing from Susie. I'm hearing that we're struggling with energy on the back nine, and she normally always feels that when she's got to wake up early, she struggles with energy, whatever it may be. Send that person and let them have a conversation and figure out, is part of the performance problem something simple like a nutrition problem? Another member of the team that I think is important is club fitting. I'm very fortunate here that I have a spot in the area that does very good work fitting golf clubs, but also repairing golf clubs and checking lie and loft angles and different things like that. So I have a club fitter on my team because this is one that I think a lot of people really miss the mark on, which is getting your lies and lofts checked. It's amazing how players, especially when they spend a lot of time hitting balls indoors where your lies and lofts can change, and then they get out on a golf course and they say, wow, all my irons draw, but my 7-iron sure seems to fade more than it should, as an example. And then they go get their lies and lofts checks and their lies are all over the place. I think club fitting is another very important component. And again, whether you have a golf coach or not, I'm assuming most of you within a reasonable distance have access to a place, whether it be a golf course or a repair shop or a fitting facility that can do lies and lofts. If you've had your clubs for over a year, go get them checked. Find out where they actually are. You might actually be costing yourself shots on the golf course because your lies and lofts are incorrect. I guess the last one I want to talk about today is access to technology. I'm fortunate that I have a launch monitor myself and I have force plates myself. But I think something that a lot of coaches, obviously it's understandable that a lot of coaches are not going to go out and buy a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 launch monitor. But I think it's always important to have access to technology for your players, whether it be getting club data, ball data, a 3D assessment, some different things like that. And I'm fortunate that I have that available to me. And the thing that I like is in the winter, spend a lot of time in front of launch monitors because we're indoors. And then we go outdoors. And then in the summer, I normally don't have my launch monitor out very often. I'm spending more time kind of talking, playing golf and talking and letting the golf ball fly and let us tell it what's going on. But I believe as we continue to try to develop golfers, we know technology is readily available. We know that they are going to spend a lot of time in front of it, especially if there may be some golf nerds, I guess we could say. But I think we also have a responsibility to have a spot where they can access technology if they want to, but also for us to understand it enough to be able to educate our players. So when our players get in front of a TrackMan or whatever launch monitor they get in front of, they aren't completely overwhelmed, they aren't completely lost, and we can educate them on what club path and club face and angle of attack and some of those simple things mean to help make them a smarter player. So you're only as good as the team around you, and the breakdown that I've given you is a team right now that I'm very fortunate to have around me. I have fitness and medical professionals, a sports nutritionist, a sports psychologist. I have certified club fitters. I have access to technology. I'm not saying that I have it all, but I hope that maybe what you take away from this episode is if you do have a golf coach, maybe these are things if you're a golf coach, maybe these are things you can add to your offering right now. And again, it's not direct revenue for you, but is developing the best team around you to help your players shoot lower scores, and that's going to build your brand and your reputation. If you don't have a golf coach, maybe you might look back at your own game right now and say, you know what, I've never had my clubs checked before. I've never had my body assessed before. Go out and find one of these professionals. Get one of these things looked at, and I promise you, all of these little things can play a big part in you shooting lower scores. And if you invest a little bit of time and a little bit of money in one or two of these components, or if you have a coach that has a program, don't shy away and just say, oh, no, I'm just here for golf lessons. Trust me, shooting lower scores is a heck of a lot more than just you being on the driving range. It's looking after your body, looking after your equipment, looking after the way you think about things, seeing what technology can offer you to help you improve, and spending more time on the golf course. Those are all the encompassing things involved It's not just always one-on-one lessons on the driving range. So that's it. That's episode 5 of the Golf Never Sleeps podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this episode, I hope that you'll go back and watch some others. And maybe more importantly, make sure you like and subscribe. You can leave a comment as well if you'd like. I'll respond to comments just to make sure that you're keeping up to date on when I release new episodes, just like this one. That's all for today. Happy golfing.